first. I saw this cool band. I saw Nirvana like 5 years before that. It is kind of cool. You get credit for that. Or, dude, I found a restaurant. You've got to take your wife to this. 10 years later, you'll be like, remember when those guys introduced us to this restaurant? You do get credit for seeing things first. It's kind of fun to find the new restaurant or hear the new band. But you get far more points, in my opinion, you get far more points deducted if you think you see or find something first. You're wrong and are stubborn and won't admit it. I admit, I had questions about Lamar Jackson. He was kind of skinny. He ran a little too much. He got hit really hard. He had a weird throwing motion. And the first year in the league, wasn't terribly accurate. But then there's this thing called games on television, and you watch. If you still don't get Lamar Jackson, you're just not paying attention now. You're trying to be right and not get it right. Folks, through the first 5 games, his stats are better today than they were in his MVP year. Congratulations for those who spotted it earlier. I didn't. I had my doubts. I didn't. But by the way, I didn't think Josh Allen. I thought he had a huge bust potential. He was wild. He couldn't throw completions from 8 yards out. I was wrong on Josh Allen. I said he had huge bust potential. Lamar Jackson, I didn't really get it. And we have this society of men now that they cannot move off wrong. They somehow view it as a weakness. It's not a weakness. Being dumb's a weakness. Being wrong's not. Lamar Jackson's really good. He not only can get you to a Super Bowl, hell, maybe he should be a favorite. I'm watching him last night. He also buried another falsehood, which, by the way, I for a long first 2 years, I'm like, he's not as good playing from behind. Well, that's done. 3 of his last 7 wins are coming from behind. So the best word I would use to describe Lamar Jackson is electric. And just think of your quarterback wherever they are. Describe your quarterback in one word. I got to tell you, electric is a really good word. Steady, efficient. And you know, when the Super Bowl's with that. It's different. I say that my wife and I, when we used to live in Connecticut, we would love lightning storms. We would go out, pour a glass of wine, and you get a lot of them in the summer because you get the hot air and the cool air of the mountains, and you get these lightning storms. We sit out there for hours, and it's unpredictable, and it moves so fast, and you don't know how it's going to end. But we would just be in amazement. Sometimes watching Lamar Jackson, I feel like I'm watching a lightning storm. I'm not really sure how it's going to end. It's just improvising and zigzagging and going everywhere. But it is absolutely electric. I cannot take my eyes off him. And John Harbaugh, afterwards, it was, by the way, he completed 83% of his throws last night. It was like an NFL record. John Harbaugh, who saw it earlier than I did, had an opinion.
It's one of the greatest performances I've ever seen, and it wasn't easy. I mean, it wasn't like we came out just up and down the field. We had to overcome and fight through some things. He was under pressure. He created plays with his feet. First of all, we've got Lamar Jackson, all right? And then next of all, we got a bunch of guys just like Lamar Jackson with heart and spirit and soul and persistence and all the other things.
One of the only things, and Joy is my witness, I did identify very early with Lamar Jackson. This one I identified. He cares so much. He wants it so badly. Folks, I can't take indifference. Does Ben Simmons want to be great or not? In my career in broadcasting, the people over 30 years that have always succeeded, Joy is one of them, they want it so much. They love what they do. They love coming to work. They love doing. Lamar was skinny. Then he came back from an off season, and he wasn't skinny. And his passing wasn't great. And then he came back, it was better, and he came back now, and it's way better. And what's interesting is he's missing an all-pro left tackle. His first-round wide receiver is not there. I mean, good God, they had a cluster injury at running back. He's using guys off the street at running back. I don't think we've hit on his potential. And John Harbaugh talked on it. It was kind of an ugly first half. It took him a while to get going. But, man, it was a lightning storm in the second half. You're never sure quite where it's going to end or how it's going to go. I cannot take my eyes off him. Calais Campbell, another good player for the Ravens, called out the Lamar doubters.
Man, that's special. I mean, he's just scratching the surface of how good he can be. I think he's still, 24 years old? This is crazy what he's capable of doing. And, I know he's notorious for what he can do with his legs. And I feel like he got a lot of disrespect, on his arm talent. I think a lot of people eating their words right now.
37 of 43, 442 yards, 10.3 average yards, and a quarterback rating of 140. By the way, Carson Wentz didn't play bad. I mean, give you an example. Carson Wentz wasn't terrible. Carson Wentz was pretty good and was completely overshadowed. An almost email chain, slurs targeting multiple groups. And it made me, I thought about this. I got about a 10-minute drive to work this morning. And I thought about how to frame this story because the NFL and the Raiders did the right thing. So years ago, my first job out of college was in Las Vegas. I've talked about this. And it was kind of fascinating. I was a kid from small town America. And I would go to these sports books. My state didn't have them. And like the Las Vegas Hilton Sports Book. And it was just so much fun. You'd go there and you watch football games and eat hot dogs all day. And they had a million screens. And I had one little black and white TV at home, right? And they had a million screens. And it was 99.9% men. And yet last year, and this number is remarkable, the NFL study came out. There were 187 million NFL fans in America. That's like 55% of the country. But here's what's more amazing. 47% were women. They now officiate. They coach. They're in the front office. That sports book, women now not only bet football, I know because I just hired a young woman named Liv Moods. She has her own business, and she tells me what games to pick. The world's changed. The NFL has been on a mission since that sports book I was in 30 years ago to broaden and widen the net. Gay Americans, women, African Americans, come on in, it's a great game. I say that all the time. I wish more people like football. 55%, I want everybody to love it because I love talking it and watching it. I'm fascinated. I talk about it all day. And John Gruden, over the course of 7 years, and this is just what we see, targeted anything that didn't look just like him or football in 1974. And you can't have that. And if that bothers you, that 47% of NFL fans are women, then the sport's going to have to move on without you. The NFL now has a commercial campaign. Football's for everyone. And again, I'm not saying everybody's perfect. This was not a clumsy joke at a Christmas party or an inappropriate tweet. We've all had a bad tweet, right? Like, that's not what it was. John Gruden was a volcano, and out of it came hate lava. Not disagreeing with groups, slurs, mean, angry at all groups that don't think and look like him. There's just no place for it. Well, nobody's perfect. Nobody's seeking perfection. We've all made mistakes. Resumes do matter. That's why I defended Drew Brees when he did something about 2 years ago and it bothered teammates. I said, that's not fair. Drew's been a good person, lots of charity. He's helped lots of players. But this was too much. I got a text last night, and I'll keep this as vague as I can, but it's somebody I infrequently talk to. They're a general counsel, an attorney, and they had to work years ago with John. They resigned. It was too toxic. Folks, when you're the face of a franchise, I hear this. I went onto Twitter last night. Well, it's cancel culture. No. John Gruden canceled himself. This was not about the cancel culture. We can have disagreements. I don't have to think like you, and you don't have to think like me. But the NFL's targeting for 30 years, they don't want sports books to be all guys. They want women, gay Americans, black Americans, old, young. They want everybody. My sister does not like football. In fact, nobody in my family liked football. I don't know why I love it. But Russell Wilson came into the league a few years ago, right? My sister lives in rural Washington State, and she fell in love with Russell Wilson. Not just the game, the person, what he stands for. And now she'll text me every Sunday with green and blue hearts, and she's crazy. And it's like, my sister loves football now. That's the NFL's goal. And that 7 years of ugly emails went against everything the NFL is trying to do. All right, I want to talk about Lamar Jackson. And